second theme of the module for the NEP 2020 Orientation Sensitization Program, which is presently the mandate of the UGC MMTTCs, as part of the teacher training and faculty development programs that we do. So, as you can see, you must have done some more topics on the national education policy. And as you all are higher education teachers and practitioners, you would have realized while practicing your profession that the outcome of the national education policy has brought such changes in the higher education system that were unprecedented. Be it multidisciplinary and holistic education, be it the inclusion of the universal human values, be it the integration of ICT, IT, and IES in teaching, learning, research, community service, and administration, etc., or be it finding the linkages between higher education and society, curriculum development, understanding autonomy, understanding self governance, understanding financial accountability, etc., etc. In the same vein, my dear friends and colleagues from across the country, we will also be focusing now on the Indian knowledge systems. We will be bringing them at the forefront of the way we taught, forefront of the way we conducted research, and the way we imparted skill development, training, and conducted community service as a measure of outreach. I will talk to you about environmental conservation. Now, I'm taking it as a given that all of us present here are university college teachers. We are teaching different subjects. Some of you may be from the sciences, some of you may not. But come from wherever you do, you know that the planet, that humanity, that the globe is at an interface with environmental catastrophe, that there is depletion of natural resources, that there is loss of biodiversity, and that there is the impending issue of global warming and climate change. There are multiple ways of approaching this problem. I'm not saying that the Indian knowledge system is the only way. I'm saying that climate scientists are doing their job, policymakers and decision makers are doing their job, educationists and professionals in education, teaching, learning, etc., are doing their job. At the same time, faith communities, global people have also started looking into their mandate and tried to find what they can do to protect the environment, to maintain ecological balance, to conserve nature. And then it was seen that more than laws and policies, more than scientific discoveries, innovations, and more than, mm, yeah, that's all, and more than probably the market towards which all the innovation is driven. Ethics, values, and morals of people play a very important role for maintaining natural balance, and for a life in harmony with nature. So, here in this lecture, I will focus on the various doctrines, principles, traditions, beliefs, rites, and rituals of the Indian knowledge systems, which are aligned with environment conservation values and ecological ethics. So let us look at these principles one by one. Now, before I come to the first principle and I try to share it with you, let me draw a caveat here. These are 8 principles that I have synthesized from my own limited knowledge of ecology, environment, and natural sciences, as well as the ancient texts and scriptures, the Vedas, Upanishads, and the Puranas, the ecological ethics in Indian philosophy, as much as I know of them, the principles of sustainability, what it is to live in harmony with nature, folk songs and proverbs, etc., that we get to hear because they give a historical perspective and a philosophical foundation. But I'm not claiming that I know it all. Probably I do not know more than what I know. So this is not a comprehensive list this is not a comprehensive treatment of what Indian knowledge systems can do for environment and what are exhaustively the problems of environment. Anyways, I will slowly and gradually see them one by one. I will show you 2 images. This is the crux of the global environmental problem. I'm going to show you 2 images below. One depicts the ill conceived position of man vis a vis biodiversity, and the other is an indication of the natural status of mankind in creation. And both are applicable for the Anthropocene. Anthropocene, you know what does it mean? The era in which man has taken the center stage. The era which has been altered by man made activities, anthropocentric activities, anthropogenic activities. So, this age, you know, there was a Jurassic era, there was a Pliocene, there was a Pleistocene. So, this era is the Anthropocene. Now, today we think that this is what we are. All flora and fauna, all abiotic elements of the creation, water, soil, air, other minerals, they are all beneath us. And all the structures, they are below us. That's what we think. And probably that has given us the right to trample them, to be on top of them and to trample them. To take decisions in such a manner that the decisions are favorable to man, not to non human species, not to non human biodiversity, not to other flora and fauna. If there is any interest of non human species of flora and fauna at a contradiction or in contrast or in confrontation of the interest of mankind, then the interest of mankind is supreme. This is the mistake that we have made while taking a view on development. Hmm? That the life of people, that the life of mankind, that the life of Homo sapiens happens to be precious, happens to be on paramount. So that has been the view generally. Flora and fauna arranged in layers, one over another, and man being on top. However, friends, and I'm sure most of you will agree with me, the real scenario in creation, and as has also been proven by the theory of evolution, and I'm not just saying Darwinism has been certainly moderated to neo Darwinism, but it's science, it's evidence based science. So we have clear evidences from this that there is no such hierarchy where man is at the top and larger mammals and primates are below him, and there's no such hierarchy. When it comes to nature, when it comes to biodiversity, when it comes to harmony, they are all together and they are all equanimous, if not in their roles or their identity, then certainly in their status and in the eyes of justice. So, justice has it that just like mankind, species of flora and fauna, abiotic factor, also have a right to survive, also have a right to defend their existence. And it will be unjustified if, because of the ill conceived development decisions of mankind, in the interest of its own race, its own species, its own origin, if that's happening, then we are not able to, we will not be able to survive together. It will not be possible. Okay. Now, with that, we will look at one by one the principles. Just give me a minute. The first principle happens to be Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam. It has become a very famous proverb. We have heard it several times. When did we hear it several times? Recently, during the G20 presidency of our country. When India took the presidency of G20, this was the motto. What was the motto? Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam. Can you see my pointer? Can somebody tell me if you can see my pointer? No? No? You can see the PPT, but on the PPT, you cannot see the pointer. Na? Okay, okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. So, what is said here is actually that the Indian knowledge system believes in one family one people, one world. Something that we just saw in this diagram, not something that we saw in this diagram. So the idea of Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam negates the principle of man being on top and man taking the top seat and man trampling the others. It gives the status of a family member to every other species. The status of a family member. It means that the world is one family and it promotes global unity, emphasizing that all humans, animals, and nature are interconnected. Just like in a family, if one member suffers, then the whole family suffers. If, say, for example, God forbid, the father has cancer and everybody else, the children, are healthy. But because the father has cancer and because they are interconnected with the father, because the very idea of a family is interconnectedness, the children will also be badly affected. Therefore, the children take care of the father because their own well being depends on the well being of the father, of their own father. So, Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam, it comes from the scriptures, and according to Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam, all species, all biotic and abiotic factors have been connected with each other in one bond, and they have been put together to work with each other for the benefit of each other. Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam. Now, this is a part of a Sanskrit shloka coming from one of the scriptures, and it spells interconnectedness and mutual respect. And this philosophy fosters a sense of universal brotherhood and harmony, advocating for collective well being and coexistence. So, somebody who believes in Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam will be a firm believer also in the well being and in in the flourishing of all other species, because we are all family members. Homo sapiens is just one family member, and we believe that one member of a family cannot prosper or flourish or be promoted at the cost of the other member of the family. Okay? Because if that's happening, then one day there will be no family. And the individual cannot exist. The individual does not exist. Existence is in the family. That's it. So, just like I showed you in these two images, we want this because we believe in Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam. We don't want this because we don't believe in surviving at the expense of the other. We want this because we believe in Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam. We don't want this also because we believe in Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam, right? Now, friends, the second principle. the principle of ahimsa. Now we know more of ahimsa as an Indian value because it was the crux of the values that were promoted by Mahatma Gandhi, father of the nation. Truth and non-violence. Satya evam ahimsa. That was his slogan. That's what he believed in. And that's what he based his argument upon. That's what he edified his movement, the struggles of his life upon. So, ahimsa is a core principle in the Indian knowledge system. We emphasize on non-violence and compassion towards all living beings. We also advocate the ethical treatment of animals because we recognize their intrinsic value and rights to live free from harm. So, ahimsa is something that helps in man animal conflict management also. A part of the man animal conflict is poaching, killing of wild animals in national parks and sanctuaries. Poaching for money, poaching for selling the body parts of wild animals in the international market, poaching for game, sports, fun, hunting, or sometimes even poaching only for vindicating. You know, vindicating? Killing wild animals just because the wild animals are preying upon their livestock, or just because animals like the elephant, they trample upon their crops. Crop fields are damaged. Agricultural fields are rampaged by the wild elephants. So the local people sometimes have an acrimonious feeling for the wild animals. They become enemies. They, they nurse animosity towards the wild animals. So, no matter what the reason behind killing is, the situation is that species, biodiversity, loss, population depletion, extinction, and threats to species is taking place at a very rapid scale. Extinctions in the Anthropocene are really high. Lots and lots of species are becoming extinct. Lots and lots of species are joining the various categories of threat by the IUCN, and high time that we stop killing, we stop poaching, we stop hunting, and high time that species populations are restored in their natural habitats. Now, no matter what measures the government takes in restoration measures, in restoring the species populations, it may be by the declaration of protected area, which is called in situ conservation. It may also be by captive breeding and reintroduction, which is the example of ex situ conservation. But if the local people continue to kill, if poaching cannot be restricted. Although I don't mean to say that poaching is the only threat. In the present times, habitat destruction is a bigger threat. For that, there is an entirely different discussion, treatment of that topic. But here there is a principle called ahimsa, enshrined in this segment of a Sanskrit shloka, maybe from the Vedas or the Upanishads. Ahimsa parmo dharma. Ahimsa parmo dharma. So my point is that while we are doing everything that we can to check habitat destruction, to manage the protected area in better ways, to give protection to wild animals in their natural habitats, we can also look into the possibilities of invoking the beliefs, traditions, and practices of the local people vis-a-vis the killing of animals, because ahimsa parmo dharma is a is an integral part of the Indian knowledge system, part of the ethics and morals and values that these systems teach to the people, to those who practice that knowledge system, or those who practice the faith, or those who are a part of that knowledge system. What we have known for ages is ahimsa parmo dharma. And if we continue to advocate, practice, and profess ahimsa parmo dharma, it is believed that there will be some, if not all, then some resolution of the man-animal conflict and some mitigation of the crisis, population crisis. I'm not saying all, but this can be a major effective step. Because very simple, vegetarianism or non-vegetarianism, we will not go into the debate, but it is very simple that if the lure of poaching and money to be earned by killing a wild animal is given to somebody who practices as well as professes ahimsa parmo dharma, then going by the beliefs and the traditions of his or her religion, he will reject the offer and not kill the wild animal. Moreover, he will resist the poachers who kill the wild animals because he believes in ahimsa parmo dharma. So, as a first step, okay, as a first step towards maintaining populations of wild animals, the beliefs of the Indian knowledge systems amongst the people can be invoked. This philosophy aligns with the modern animal rights movements also, because it professes the ethical treatment of animals. These days there are so many organizations. There is the PETA, People for Ethical Treatment of Animals. You know PETA? Then in India also there are several groups like that, Menka Gandhi's group and all. This principle aligns with their philosophy also. Although we may not agree as scientists, scientifically, we may not agree with everything that the PETA people say, but certainly we believe that the belief that non-violence is the supreme religion, that belief is very much aligned with the modern animal rights movements and the promotion of coexistence and respect for all forms of life. So, one was, as you saw, Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam, and the other, as you are saying, is Ahimsa, non-violence, that is Ahimsa Parmo Dharma. Let us now go on to the third principle. Nature worship and pantheism. Nature worship and pantheism. Now, friends, we all know there are hundreds and thousands of animals whose forms and faces are congruent with the forms and faces of gods and goddesses, deities, deities of sects, deities of communities, deities of tribes. Hmm? So, nature worship and pantheism is good for environment in the sense that when you worship something, you don't harm it. I'm showing you just a few examples. There are many more. There are several more. You can see a picture here of a plant of Tulsi, Ossimum sanctum. The name only suggests that this is a plant that has a religious sanctity about it. Now, when do we call it sanctimonious, or when do we say that there is a sanctity about it? When there is no harm to be incurred. no harm to be incurred. That means if Tulsi, we are calling the scientific name only of Tulsi is Ocimum sanctum, it is a sanctimonious, it is a pious and sacred plant. We will not harm it. So, when there are entities of nature in which we see spirituality, in which we see sacredness, in which we see some kind of godliness, a reflection of a deity, an association, a significance, religious significance, spiritual significance, then we protect it and then we do not harm it. A woman in front of a temple in South India, joining her hands in front of an elephant and taking an offering from the elephant, considers it auspicious for herself, for her fate, for her destiny, for her well being. She considers it coming from God. Now, such a woman will never harm the elephant. In the same vein, a woman kneeling in front of a peepal tree. Now, what is the scientific name of the peepal tree? Ficus religiosa. Even the British, who named the different flora and fauna of India according to the binomial nomenclature, this was actually given by Carl von Linnaeus, and it's the Latinization of every term by which we have these scientific names of species of flora and fauna. Even the British realized that the most significant thing about the tree, the peepal tree, is that it has a significance in the religion of India. And hence, this is the name itself is Ficus religiosa. So, somebody who worships a peepal tree, who joins hands and sits down, kneels down on the floor before a peepal tree, asking it to grant wishes to the tree, taking positive vibes, feeling in with the universe, it means she or her family members will never harm that tree, will never harm that tree. That's how we protect nature. Tulsi or basil or Ocimum sanctum, as we call it, you can see where is it grown? It is grown in a man-made structure which has been given a high place in a home and a family. That's where it has been grown and it's been protected there. So a family which is considering the tulsi plant sacred and sanctimonious and pious will not only keep the tulsi plant at home, that family will also protect the tulsi plant. And that's how we don't have to worry about the conservation of the tulsi plant. However, what I mean to say is also that uh, we have to conserve all plants, not just those which come in the category of nature worship and pantheism. We have to conserve all flora and all fauna, very much in the spirit of Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam and in the spirit of Ahimsa Parmo Dharma. All right. So that was principle number three, nature worship and pantheism, helping biodiversity conservation, helping, aiding and abetting nature conservation, working in alignment with principles of sustainability, becoming an ecological ethic. There are several other examples, my dear friends. Look at the example that I have given for camphor, kapoor. The kapoor vape is infused in the incense to sanitize the household in the arti after every puja. The lady of the household wakes up in the morning and collects flowers from her garden for the daily offerings to the deity. So, as she cooks the meals for the family, before a family member accepts a morsel of food, they also give food to the cow. And if there are any other examples that you want to add to this entire discussion, how flowers and grains and other elements of biodiversity sometimes they are integral to rites and rituals like puja, yagya, anushtan, etc. How the weddings, the namkaran, which is called the naming of a newborn, the bhumi pujan, the greha pravesh, these are all such rites and rituals which are sometimes not complete without the inclusion of some element of biodiversity. And again, I have repeated here for you the example of Ossimum sanctum or Tulsi. People are so very much in sync with its natural rhythms that Tulsi Devi ka Vivah is also performed, which is actually called Wedding of the Goddess of Basil. It's performed during the cold wave when the bushes are covered with red sheets in order to prevent the leaves from frosting and from wilting. All right. Now, here, friends, you see a map of India with some locations marked with the presence of a sacred grove. Now, what is a sacred grove? Can somebody tell me what is a sacred grove? Have you heard about it? Since this lecture is taking place in Amravati, which is in Maharashtra, and I think all the teachers are from the same college, must be in Maharashtra. So probably you know about sacred groves because there are quite a few sacred groves and community conserved areas. So can somebody tell me what is a sacred grove? Anyone? Have you heard about what is a sacred grove? No. All right, no problem. Now, this is a special kind of forest. A type of forest which is associated with a deity or with a god or a goddess, some agency, some entity which is worshipped. The entire forest is associated with a supernatural entity. And henceforth, the people do not harm the forest. Sacred grove. Quite a few in Maharashtra, quite a few all over the country, as you can see on the map. Now, in the Hindu tradition, forests are of three types, and mind it, what I'm talking about is virgin forests. Virgin forest means inviolate areas. It means places where no human activity is allowed. It means places that have been just left sacred for flora and fauna and for nature to thrive. They are called sacred groves. Now, these forests are of three types: the Tapovan, Mahavan, and Srivan. Tapovan are forests associated with penance, that is tapas, and they are inhabited by saints and rishis. Mahavan refers to the grand natural forests. So, Tapovan and Mahavan are considered to be a raksha or a sanctuary for flora and fauna. And ordinary human beings are not allowed to enter these forests. Srivan, it means forests of the goddess of prosperity. And there it also consists of dense forests and dense grooves. Later, my friends, if we have some time, if I'm finished with the slides and you don't have any questions, then I have a short paper also that is based on the sacred grooves of UP. I would like to read it to you. It's a very short paper. So that's the sacred groove. It can also be a sacred pond, by the way. Not just a woodlot or not just a forest, but also a pond or an entire mountain, an entire hill, a cave in the northeast. Some time back, I actually saw uh, an entire hill completely green, full of very, very pristine forest, along with some caves that has been declared as a sacred grove. So one fine morning, legend may have it that suddenly somebody went to the pond and they saw the idol of a deity emerging from the pond on the surface of the water. And then people came and they proclaimed and they prostrated and then they started calling it the pond of the deity. Henceforth, there will not be any disturbance to the pond, its balance will be respected, and it will be treated as a sacred pilgrimage, sacred nature, sacred site of nature. So that is the sacred grove. Now, sacred forests and sacred groves are actually made up of trees. The benefit of a forest is basically the benefit of the tree. There is an English saying also which says, do not miss the forest for the trees. So, together, the forests accrue and deliver to us immense benefits. Some of them are also of critical ecosystem values. They cannot be exchanged for anything else. They are critical. That means our survival depends upon them. If the benefits of the forests are not delivered to us, our survival will be threatened. Our survival will be restricted. Together, the trees are doing so much, and the tree in itself is a blessing of the Almighty in nature. Now, in the Indian knowledge system, there are hundreds of Sanskrit shlokas. I have noted down here for you just one as an example. The Indian knowledge system, coming from scriptures, coming from texts, ancient texts, Sanskrit texts, they talk about the significance of trees, the benefits of trees. And this is just one example. See what shloka has been written here for you. First, we will read the Sanskrit version. Dashakup samavapi. Dashavapi samohradah. Dashakup samavapi. Dashvapi samohridah. Dashhrid samah putro. Dashputra samodrumah. And if some of you, I'm sure most of you can read Sanskrit because the script is Devanagari, but even if there is somebody who cannot, then the English transliteration is also there. Not English, Latin. Roman transliteration is also there. Dashakup samavapi dashavapi samohridah dashahrida samahaputro dashaputra samodruma. What is the translation of this? Ah, a pond equals 10 wells. A reservoir equals 10 pounds. A pond equals 10 wells. A reservoir equals 10 pounds. A sun equals 10 reservoirs. And look at what comes now. Mind boggling. A tree equals 10 suns. Amazing. No one ever thought of then. No one ever thought of this. To say that one tree is equal to 10 suns. A pond equals 10 wells. A reservoir equals 10 pounds. A sun equals 10 reservoirs. And a tree equals 10 suns. दशकूप समावापि दशवापि समोहृदः दशहृद समः पुत्रो दशपुत्र समो द्रुमः. Now we will talk about the last three principles one by one. Community conserved areas, Bishnoi community, and the Sattvic diet regimen and Mitahara. We all know about national parks and sanctuaries. They are protected areas. Sometime back in our country, we added two more categories of conservation. One is the conservation reserve. We are not going to talk about it. It's a category of a different kind, but it's really helping. Another is community reserves. Community reserves are such areas where the local community preserves biodiversity, plants, animals, birds, species, because they are living in harmony, because there is a symbiotic relationship between the two, because even if some development project, even if for the sake of some development project, It is possible uh, to destroy that site and convert it into an urban or industrialized or other structure. It will not be traded. It will not be traded. That is a community conserved area. The local people preserve the community. The local people preserve the bird community, the flora, the fauna. They have a symbiotic relationship. And the government has strengthened these communities by enacting this law, which is in favor of actually biodiversity, but also in favor of not alienating the local people because they understand that their benefit, their future survival, their sustainability, their coming to a circular economy actually depends on the survival of the flora and fauna, the plants and animals that are found there. And that also need to survive if they have a good future. So the community believes that they have a bright future, economically sustainable as well as ecologically sustainable, only if this biodiversity is also protected there. You can also, if you are interested, and there are quite a few community conserved areas in Maharashtra also. In fact, the very first generation of community conserve areas that were declared back in the late 2000s, that was a village called Mendha Lekha in Maharashtra, your state, Mendha Lekha. The people there, they say, this is our village, this is our republic, just like the Chipko movement of the uh, Uttarakhand Himalayas. They are also very aware people. They believe in the united struggles and the united movements. And they have given this slogan that our village, our republic, hence our rule. And we will not let our land be taken for any development project, even if it is for too much money. Why? Because we are happy with our birds, we are happy with our local economy, and we are happy with our agriculture and our farm animals. We don't want this to be destroyed because we realize that now we will get a lot of money, but later we will end up on streets. So by this time in our country, there are 220 community conserved areas. 220 community conserved areas. And these are in addition to several protected areas that we have. We have conservation reserves along with national parks and sanctuaries, and we have community conserved areas, all a part of the Indian knowledge system. The kind of conservation and protection and management of natural resources that we see only in India, because we are a people who have at the very heart and the core of our ethics, morals, and values, we nurture the idea of sacred nature. We realize the sacredness in nature. And that is why there are areas of wilderness, of biodiversity value, and of local sustenance value also, for which there is no protection needed from the government. The government doesn't need to notify it as a sanctuary or a national park. The people come forward and the people conserve that area themselves. Now, community conserved areas are augmented by communities which protect species. Here is an example of the Bishnoi community. This is the example of the first eco warriors of their kind. Today we have so many. Oh my God, in Uttarakhand, there is Eco Task Force and every environmental action group. Haritima, if you look at the number of NGOs with the Planning Commission, where they are all registered, you will find majority of these NGOs are for the protection of environment. So it has become a community movement, climate action, climate literature, and climate activism. So a lot of climate activism we are seeing today. But all this is very recent. All this is a beginning that we saw in the 20th and the 21st century, where environmental devastation we finally saw happening. But back in the 15th, 16th century, in the middle of the 15th century, the foundation of this community, which is known as the first eco warriors of the history of India, had been laid, and they are a fine example of the Indian knowledge system, where Shri Guru Jambheshwar, who was the founder of this community, and in Haryana in Hisar, there's a university also named after him, Guru Jambheshwar University. He gave 29 principles. They are called 29 niyamas for bonding the community together, for keeping them like a family so that they can act together in, benefiting each other. 1451. Guru Jambheshwar died in 1536. Now, of these 29 principles, niyamas, 8 are for sustainable environmental practices, biodiversity conservation, and animal husbandry. 8 of the 29 principles. The community is instructed to use firewood without burning insects. Cutting trees is also banned. They don't wear blue clothes as the dye is obtained by damaging a large number of shrubs. And finally, the most striking thing about the Bishnois that have made them a subject of a lot of conversation and talk of the town kind of, the special patronage that they accord to the black buck, which is called in Hindi Kala Hiran, but it's actually not a deer. Scientifically, it's an antelope, because the horns of an antelope never shed. On the contrary, the antlers of a deer are shed. Anyways, in Hindi, we have the same word for both. It's seeing. Um, the black buck is so much loved by this community for religious reasons. They don't worship the black buck. But because they understand the interconnectedness in nature, because they go by the niyamas that were given by their guru and they follow them, the people, and because the black buck coexists with them in their region, they fiercely protect the black buck. A, they don't kill it themselves, which is a great relief. Most places we have man animal conflict with the local communities against wildlife, and they are killing the species. B, they don't let others enter their areas and hunt or poach the black buck. They will not let that happen. They take grave offense to foreigners, I mean outsiders, not exactly foreigners in the national and political term, but to non Bishnois coming in their areas and hunting black bucks. You must have heard or read about the case of Salman Khan and Saif Ali Khan, both of them going to some areas in Rajasthan and then shooting black bucks. You know, such influential stars, they ended up in jail because the Bishnois, they took it to the court. They fought this battle, took it to the last mile, and made sure that the perpetrators of crime, they're punished. We have the Wildlife Protection Act in our country since 1972, and the act is applied on so many species, all Schedule 1 species. The act has several schedules 1, 2, 3, but the implementation is so poor. It is all left at the mercy of the forest department, forest officials. The forest officials who themselves are helpless when they are working in an area where the local community dominates. They cannot work in an area without having a strong coordination and a goodwill with the local community. So the problem is that the law is there, but the law is not being implemented. Anyways, when eco warriors, so resolute and so determined, like the Bishnoi community, they decide, they are determined that the black buck must get justice. The perpetrators of the crime of poaching of this species, that is a Schedule 1 species and a much revered species in their community, then they really showed the entire world that the laws against poaching should not be taken non-seriously. And it is certainly causing a deterrence to other poachers, and all other animals are enjoying the outcome because there's less pressure of hunting for game and hunting for fun on populations of wild animals. Another thing about the Bishnoi people I would like to mention here. If a Bishnoi woman finds that a fawn of the black buck has lost his mother, she has lost her mother, and the fawn is small enough not to be able to fend for himself, graze, and live, the mother allows the fawn to suckle upon her own breasts, which is just exceptional. So there may be more such communities, but I should also say here that this is also possible only in the Indian knowledge systems. And last and final is the Sattvic regimen and the Mitahara. Sattvic is a certain type of food where the food is pure, the food is non-violent, the food is considered to be very good for health, and it is planetary and sustainable food. Planetary diet is sattvic diet, except that planetary diet does include meat in moderation. Mitahara is eating less. Portion control. Portion control sometimes becomes the key to health, diabetes and hypertension and uh, coronary heart diseases. Eating less, exercising more. That's what the doctors keep telling you. Metahara is a part of the Indian knowledge system. Eat less. Don't eat. Stay hungry. The Jain community doesn't eat after sunset. There is fasting where a lot of food items are just not eaten. Not eating, that means reducing the food intake for the body, eating less. On Mitahara and Sattvic diet, there can be a lot that I can talk to you about. However, time here is short. I think now we have come to the end of, I must set aside some 4 5 minutes for question and answer also. So that's all, my friends. My message and the call to action is that on the one hand, in our lives, we can encourage sustainable living practices. Read Mission Life, that is, living for environment. Reinvent and redefine the relevance of ecological ethics in modern times. And as teachers, because I know I'm talking here to a handful of teachers, all I want to say is that let us promote the Indian knowledge system not as a political agenda, but as a tool for education which can, amongst other things, also promote ecological ethics. So, thank you so much. I, I come to an end. I will stop sharing my screen. I'm back to you. And we still have another 2 3 minutes. So if any participants have any questions, if you have any queries, any points, any discussion, please let me know. I will be, my God, 90 participants. Wonderful. Congratulations to the UGC MMTTC and the Sant Gadge Baba Amravati University. Lots of participants. Good registration. Yes, any questions?
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Participants, if you have any queries or the question or you have some kind of observation, you can note down here. Please, anyone. So, forum is open for discussion.
Yeah, Dr. Abbasi, madam, if you permit me.
Sir, please. Dr. Jha,
Yeah.
sir, please.
Yeah. Your presentation has been beautiful. You have compiled so many Sanskrit shlokas and varsas, and the beauty of the presentation was that you have been so correct in pronouncing these Sanskrit varsas. I was wondering how come it is that so lovely way of pronunciation of all these Sanskrit varsas. It was very good, and you picked up really beautiful lessons that we can draw from our Indian knowledge system. I was all the while thinking of, you may have heard of this Sanskrit Subhasitam. Amantram aksharam nasti moolam na aushadham ayogya purso nasti yojaka tatra durlava. We talk about this Subhashit in management because it talks about yojaka tatra durlava, but the second part of this Subhashit, amantram aksharam nasti, the first part, uh, amantram aksharam nasti moolam na aushadham. The second part, nasti moolam na aushadham, lays down the foundation of the entire stream of Ayurveda. And that is the most important contribution of Indian knowledge system, which has given uh, a stream of medicine treatment, and that is purely based on flora and fauna. So that is one thing which I found to be missing in it. Otherwise it has all been very beautiful, and the pace with which you have presented it to us was lovely, I must say, Dr. Basim. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was so nice to listen to your comment. What I gather from what you have said is that you yourself seem to be very learned in the Indian knowledge systems. I can't claim to be learned in the Indian knowledge systems, and I had already stated in the beginning that I'm drawing a caveat. This is not comprehensive. Basically, I'm a wildlife scientist, but I have interest in cultures and I have interest in spirituality. And as a wildlife scientist, I have realized, especially working with communities, that the core belief system always comes in handy in, you know, uh, resolving the conflict. So I will certainly, Professor Jha, I will add that, what you have told me. This shloka about Aushadhi. Hmm?
Yeah. Thank you, madam. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. You are in which college?
I'm in the same college, Sri Sant Gajanan Maharaj College of Engineering in Management Department.
Okay, it's in Amravati?
Yeah, yeah, it's under Amravati University.
Yes,
We are
ma'am,
the
it is.
co-host. We are the co-host of this
Oh,
program.
yeah. That's a great idea. Professor Atiq, I think, has really struck the key to success in MMTTC, NEP management, collaborating with the other colleges and, having a good number of participants. That's it. And what subject do you teach, Professor Jha?
I teach different subjects of management, starting
Okay.
from business communication to business environment
Mm,
to subjects of finance, some
right.
subjects of marketing, also agriculture business marketing, and so on and so
Wonderful.
forth. Yeah,
Wonderful.
yeah,
And a lot of the indigenous wisdom that is inherent in the Sanskrit shlokas, I think, can be applied to management
yeah,
principles.
yeah. Absolutely, absolutely.
Recently, I visited a bookshop and I saw a book named um, Management Principles from the Tirukkural.
Yeah, yeah,
The great Tamil poet, it said that there are 3,000 sukti of Tirukkural, and it's part of indigenous wisdom in the southern Indian states, and they proved to be very effective in management and leadership. And here at the Aligarh Muslim University, one of my colleagues in the management department, he is these days working on Urdu Shairi
yeah, yeah,
and management inspirations coming from Urdu Shairi. He has compiled hundreds of "Hum to tanha hi chale the janib manzil magar log saath aate gaye karwa banta gaya." It's actually about leadership.
yeah,
या वो इकबाल का शेर है कि निगाह बुलंद तूफान दिलनवाज जहाँ पुरसोज यही है रख्ते सफर मेरे कारवां के लिए। तो वो कर रहे हैं, उस पे बहुत अच्छा काम कर रहे हैं। आई थिंक ये अभी होना चाहिए हमारे देश में कि हमारे जो आईकेएस में है ज्ञान विज्ञान, इफ इट कम्स इनटू हाउ वी कैन अप्लाई इट टू better life living, art of living, I believe it will be great. So all the best for your work, Professor Jha. Thank you so much.
thank you. And for your information, madam,
Hmm.
one of my friend who is the director of Indian Institute of Management, Trichy, he has recently published
Mhm.
a book on the personality traits of human being, drawing 2000 verses from the scriptures, Indian scriptures.
Oh, that's
And he has brought about 2000 traits of personality of human being. That's a very book which is now available on Amazon. He has recently published it. So there are many works which are going on drawing
very
principles and
good.
lessons from Indian knowledge system
Yeah.
and bringing it into the management sector.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Really great to know. I will try to look up for that book. And because I very quickly I bought that book on Tirukkural and the management principles. And recently I was there in Tiruchirappalli at the Bharatidasan University and the Jamal Muhammad College. I visited the Jamal Muhammad College for a day and the Bharatidasan University for a day.
Yeah. It's a book authored by Dr. P.K. Singh, who is
Okay.
the director of that institute, Indian Institute of
IIM.
Management, Tiruchirappalli. Yeah.
IIM. Thank you
Yeah.
for letting me know of that. I will certainly try to benefit from that.
Thank you,
Thank
madam.
you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. So, if you could permit, ma'am, shall we conclude because we have to proceed for the next session?
Yes, आपके दूसरे रिसोर्स पर्सन आ गए होंगे।
Yes, Dr. Preeti Suresh, ma'am. Dr. Preeti Suresh, ma'am, with us.
हाँ, Aha, Preeti is there, huh?
Yes, from Raipur. From Raipur.
Yes, yes. Pandit Ravi Shankar Shukla.
Yes, 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 yes,
She's
ma'am.
a friend. She's a good friend.
Yes.
Uh,
So,
okay, thank you. Let me take your leave then. Hi, Preeti. Hi.
Hello, ma'am. Nice to see you here.
Yeah, yeah. I'm handing the baton to you. It's a wonderful group. There are very enlightened people here and a large group also. So, all the best. All the
so
best.
thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. We
Thank
are really thankful to you for your precious time and thoughts here, thought-provoking session here. And with the kind consent of Dr. Apasi, ma'am, I would like to declare that this session will be over here and we will
you.
continue for the next session. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Hello, Dr. Preeti Suresh, ma'am. Shall we start if you could permit?
Yes, we can.
Dr.
Yeah.
Rajiv sir, if you permit just 5 minutes break so that we can.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Ma'am, if you could permit, shall we take the ma'am break of 5 minutes and then we
Yeah,
will.
yeah, sure. I'm here. Just let me know. Yeah,
Ma'am. Sharp at 4:41, we will start, ma'am.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Hello.
Okay, so shall we continue, participants?
Yes, sir.
Hello, Dr. Suresh, ma'am.
Hi, yes, sir.
Yes, shall we continue, ma'am, if you could permit?
Yeah, we can.
So, good afternoon, one and all, once again. As we have already at the beginning of session, I am already stated that the today's session has been split into the two different parts. First part we have almost completed, and now we are going to the towards the another part of today's session. Friends, you know that in our HEI, the research component is very important in government. Not only government, this national education policy has paid more emphasis on this the research component, research and particularly research and development. So today we are going to discuss the concept of this research and development with the help of Professor Preeti Suresh, ma'am. Ma'am, I extend my warm welcome to you to this flagship program. Friends, Professor Suresh, ma'am, is a professor from the field of pharmaceutical sciences, and she belongs to the department, the Institute of Pharmaceutical Sciences at Pandit Ravi Shankar Shukla University, Raipur. She is also the director of this Malviya Mission Teacher Training Center at Pandit Ravi Shankar Shukla University. She has also held other administrative positions like the Dean of Faculty of Technology and the Director of University Institute of Pharmacy at the Pandit Ravi Shankar Shukla University. She has more than 2 decades of 2.5 decades of teaching as well as the research experience. She has work center around a nano career for the various drug delivery application. She is also has the credit of 60 scientific contribution in the indexed and peer-reviewed national as well as the international journal, and over 100 papers in the conference, symposium, and the seminar. She has author of 8 book chapters and has penned several popular articles on the health and women issue. She has presented her work on novel drug delivery system in the many form, with the several invited talk and the lecture. She is a reviewer of the various reputed international journal in the area of advanced material, nanotechnology, nanomedicine, and the drug delivery. And she has been associated with the academic network and various committees of different governing bodies at the university. She is a lifetime member of IPA, APTI, and the active pharmacy professionals. She is also on the editorial board of APTI's Women's Forum newsletter. She is a member of the state level task force committee for the implementation of national education policy at Chhattisgarh. So, friends, this is a brief introduction with regards to Professor Suresh, ma'am. We are luckily fortunate that one member who has steering at the state level for the implementation of this national education policy. She is today with us for enlightening on such a huge and important vertical of this national education policy. So, ma'am, I again extend my warm welcome to you and not taking much more time. I will again request you to start with your session. Ma'am, please. Ma'am, I think you're muted, ma'am.
Yes, yes, yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much for a very kind and generous introduction. And first and foremost, I would like to thank the authorities at the Sant Gadge Baba Amravati University, Amravati, and especially Professor Muhammad Atiq sir for giving me this opportunity to come here and share some of my understanding and perspectives with the faculty members from different parts of the country. And certainly, I would like to uh, right away share that this is will be an interactive session, and you are most welcome to share your experiences or your observations if you find something very important during the session, or we can take the questions at the end of the session, right? So just a minute. So before I start, I would like to know from the participants, like whether I should continue in English or should I keep it bilingual?
Ma'am, it is convenient Hindi and English also, or you can continue in English. There is
Okay,
no issue.
okay, okay. Okay, so by now, you already might have heard to several of the resource persons who have been addressing you regarding the various themes that have been identified by UGC under this NEP orientation and sensitization program, which is a very important and flagship program of the UGC, where they are looking forward to train and sensitize over 15 lakh teachers across the country, because it is almost 4.5 years since this national education policy document has come up, but still there are some confusions, and as we are implementing it in our institutions, we are having some teething problems as well. So before I start, I would just like to share this screen with you. I hope it is visible and the screen slides are moving also, right? So this is give you a view about the university where I'm presently associated with. That is Pandit Ravi Shankar Shukla University, Raipur, which is located in the capital city of Chhattisgarh. And one more purpose to share this slide with you was to share our motto of our university, which is derived from one of the shlokas of Yajurveda. And one very interesting thing about this is that this shloka finds mention in three different places in the Yajurveda. And if we go by its translation, what does it mean? It it actually says Agne Nai Supatharai, and if translated, it means that, O fire, or O Swaprakash, or O Agni, lead us on a virtuous path to prosperity. And I think this is the objective with which we teachers are working in our respective institutions, where our major objective is to train the students, to provide them with the skills, and to empower them so that they are able to not only contribute to the society but also lead it to the prosperity. But at the meantime, we also are making sure that they are following a virtuous path during the course of their journey. So the theme that has been assigned to me, that is research and development, and during the next 1.5 hour or so, I will be mainly first going on what is research and what are the challenges, and then I will just like to share some practices which we can follow to strengthen the research in our institutions. Right. Now, if you have gone through the National Education Policy document, you might have observed that it is a very critical document. Critical in the sense like it is not only showing us the way where we have to take forward our higher education ecosystem, what are the changes that we have to bring within it, and what are the major provisions that we can provide to the various stakeholders, but it is also identifying what are the major or what have been the major concerns or challenges within the realm of higher education. So, the first and foremost that have been pointed out is that our higher education system is very fragmented. Fragmented in the sense there are very rigid separations between disciplines, and this separation or this compartmentalization into various disciplines starts right after high school, where the student have to opt the discipline in which they would like to pursue their studies. And sometimes, even though the students may want to study, say, one subject from each discipline, say one from the science or one from the humanities or one from the commerce, the students doesn't had the choice, or we are not able to give those options to the students. So when the student is confined to one discipline, no doubt the students develops a deeper understanding in that chosen area, but somehow and most of the times we can see that the holistic development of the student doesn't take place because the student is only able to see an issue or a problem only from the perspective or only from the lens of his or her own discipline. Another major concern has been our system, higher education system has more of been a teacher centric system, and where as teachers we are provided with syllabus or curriculum, we go to the classrooms and a major concern is to complete the syllabus, but at the end of the course what the skills the students are developing, sometimes that is missed out. Although during the last few years you can say now we are slowly moving towards the outcome based education, but still this has been a major concern. Another major issue that we see around us due to the diversity of the types of institutions that we are having. We are a very diverse country, and this diversity also exists in the terms of the institutions that we are having. On one end of the spectrum, we have premier institutions, say like IITs or IIMs or NITs, or even central universities or state universities. But the number of such institutions is very less. Major of the institutions we see, they may be located in socio-economically challenged areas or in the rural areas where the institutions are struggling to have the requisite infrastructure that are required for extending quality education to the students. And sometimes these institutions also have very limited number of teachers, and even though the teachers may be very enthusiastic and they want to implement some new courses or some new things, they do not have the flexibility or autonomy to do that because they are bound by the various laws, rules, statutes, and acts of the universities. Then the concern of leadership is also there because sometimes as I said, the faculty members may be enthusiastic, but they may not get sufficient support from their heads or directors or deans or principals, and which makes the situations even worse for the institutions. And also, we see that there are large affiliating universities, and sometimes under these universities, hundreds of colleges must be there under their jurisdiction. And sometimes these institutions are located at a very far distance, and which virtually makes it impossible for the authorities at the universities to strictly monitor and regulate the day-to-day activities of the student of these colleges or these institutes. And the major sufferer in this case you can see is the UG education, because we see that in most of the colleges sometimes the quality of education that we require or what the aspirations of the students are, that are not usually met. But since in today's session we are mainly focusing on research and development, we also see that in majority of the institutions, the focus is mainly on teaching and learning. There is very less focus on the research component, and there are a number of factors which may be responsible for it. And one of the major factors is the lack of funding, because research is a very fund intensive activity, and due to the paucity of the funds or due to the funds crunch you can say, the institutions are not able to lay much emphasis on the research and such related activities. So this is how you can see the NEP is bringing about many changes in our higher education ecosystem, whether it is the more emphasis that is now being placed on multidisciplinary education, the option that is now being given to the students for multiple entry and exit. There is also now talk about even in the traditional courses for continuous and holistic assessment of the students. The assessment of students will not now be based only on the basis of one year end or semester end examination, but continuous assessment of the students has to be made. Then also the provisions that has to be provided to the students for pursuing their courses in their mother tongue, or at least that to ensure we have to ensure that the reading materials to the students are provided in their mother tongue to these students. Also, there is now much more focus on skill development also, because now we can see even in the conventional courses there is now the provisions for internship, there is now provisions for project based learning. So all these elements are being included to improve the to have more emphasis on skill development of the students. And from the perspectives of research, if you can see that the NEP had proposed that there will be establishment of National Research Foundation. Right. Now, if we go on to see what are the major overarching goals of higher education, one of the major objectives is to increase the GER by 50% by the year of 2035. So I would like to know from the participants, what is this GER?
Gross enrollment ratio.
Enrollment ratio, and how is it calculated? How is the gross enrollment ratio calculated? Gross enrollment ratio is actually the proportion of the students in the age group of 18 to 26. So how many of what the percentage of students in that age group of 18 to 26 who are enrolling for any of the courses in the higher education institutions, that is the GER, right? And currently the GER is somewhere around 27 to 28%. And it is the goal that has been set is that by the year of 2035, we have to make sure that at least 50% of the individuals in this age group are entering into our campuses and enrolling into some or the other courses. Then there is also the talk about light but tight regulatory structure. Then slowly we are moving towards technology driven education, both to improve the engagement of the students and also to increase the reach of the quality education to the remote areas as well. Then there is now we are moving towards the holistic education with flexible curriculum, where the students will be having the option to choose the subjects, choose their design their own basket of subjects that they want to pursue in their course of higher education. Then we also have moving towards more autonomy is to be given to the institutions through suitable accreditation, and more of HAIs we have to introduce courses or programs in Indian languages, or at least the programs are offered to the students in the bilingual manner. So if we just go back and see what are the major core elements to the mission of any higher education institution, One major goal is no doubt teaching and learning, because these are those centers where there will be opportunities will be provided to the students to pursue various courses. We have to adopt the such teaching pedagogies which will increase the engagement of the students. Another major element is the research and discovery, because the institutions are also centers of, apart from the centers of higher learning, they are also centers where we may be creating new knowledge, and we may be conducting the research which will bring about changes in the society as well. Then these are also centers where there will be synthesis of new knowledge, where we will be providing opportunities to the students to explore their creativity, to nurture their critical thinking skills as well. Then these are also centers where the various stakeholders have mutually interactive and beneficial interactions, and they are engaging with each other. And also, they are also centers where whatever knowledge that the students are acquiring, or whatever skills that the students are gaining, that also has to reach out to the society, and we have to come out with solutions for the problems which the people might be facing. So now the question that I would like to raise for all the participants here, if some of you or any one of you can just share, like, according to you, what is research?
Creation of knowledge.
It is creation of knowledge. Okay. Anyone else? Yeah, thank you. Anyone else would like to add something to it? So when we are talking about research is basically creation of new knowledge, right? And in this process, sometimes we may be using the existing knowledge in a new and creative way to generate new concepts, methodologies, and understandings. So that is how sometimes for the research we may be going back and analyzing the previous studies that has been conducted, and we will be coming out with some new and creative outcomes at the end of any assigned research or research project, right? So this is how you can say whatever this definition of research that I have just shared with you. This basically coincides, or it is consistent with the broad notion of the R&D, because ultimately R&D is the comprising of the creative work which is undertaken on a systemic basis, and in this process excuse me. And in this process, we will be creating some new knowledge, and this new knowledge can be used to devise newer applications, right? So any research activity, you can say, it has major two goals or two aims, you can say. One is the discovery of new knowledge, and with this new knowledge, we can also be developing newer technologies. So these newer technologies can be in terms of developing new processes which may be more economical or which may be more efficient, or it can be used for designing newer products, or it can also be newer ways in which the services are provided to the customers or to the consumers. So there is one more term that we are hearing a lot these days, and that is innovation. So would the participants like to share what do they understand by innovation? क्या होता है innovation या नवाचार?
Madam, if the research is searching what is already existing and combining it to come out with new knowledge, innovation is complete novelty, brand new, which did not exist earlier and which has got its application in solving the problem of the society.
Yes, yeah, to the point, yeah, you are very right when we say that innovation is basically the implementation, practical implementation of these new ideas, and these new ideas may be improvement of the existing ideas or technologies. But one very important element for innovation is that it should lead to revenue generation, or it should be of some economic value, or it should be have some societal usefulness. Then only we can say that it is an innovation. So now, as you see, like most of the your institutions also, you will be having the institution innovation councils, right? And various activities you may be conducting under that, so as to sensitize the students, to enable the students to further uh, opportunities are given to the students to explore their entrepreneurship. And if the students are having some ideas, some hand holding, or even some funding may also be being provided to the such students, right? So if we see that now during the last few years, India has emerged as the third largest startup ecosystem in the world. If we just go by some specific uh, data, you can see this is just the current data. Like in 2016, we had only 500 startups. But at the beginning of this year, in January, when we completed 9 years of the Startup India scheme, we are now having more than 1.59 startups. So these two major schemes that has been introduced by the government, that is, one is the Startup India scheme and another one is the Stand Up India scheme. So these schemes, Startup India scheme, this provides support, financial support to the individuals if they have some innovative ideas, and this funding is provided to them at very low interest rate. Apart from the funds, they are also connected to the industry experts. Some hand holding is also provided to these entrepreneurs, right? And due to this, you can say the startups, around 1.6 lakh startups that we are having, um, they are have also been able to generate employment. Over 16.67 lakh new employment has also been generated through these startups. And somehow or the other, indirectly, it has also been contributing to the women empowerment also, because almost half of these uh, startups, they are having at least one women director also. There is one more scheme of the government, that is the Stand Up India scheme, that is specially for the marginalized communities. whether it is women entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs from the SC/ST communities. So why I am talking about this innovation here is because research is the basic, you can say, engine which ultimately drives the innovation. And once the research ecosystem in our institutions is robust, it is strong, you can say, we can encourage or we can enable the student to explore their creativity, and some benefit arises out of all these activities. So just like before we are planting a seed into the ground, the first thing we have to make sure is that we have to prepare the ground. And once we are preparing the ground, that means that that is what the education does. It prepares the ground for the innovation to grow. And as if the seed has to start growing, it has to convert into seedling, we also have to make sure that the soil is providing a nurturing environment. And this is what the information and the research does. And as the plant starts growing, we also have to make sure that there are no weeds or other undesired elements which can hamper the growth of these plants or these tiny herbs. And this once the plant starts growing, and if it has to reach to its maximum potential, we also have to make sure that the plant is having access to all the resources, whether it is in terms of water or nutrients or air or sunlight. And this is what the financing and support to the innovators is all about. So, for driving the innovation, it is also very important that there has to be an exposure to the research for the students. And during the last, I have shared some statistics with you, during the last 10 years, you can say, we have risen in our global innovation index also. In 2015, we were at the 81st rank, and in 24, now we are climbed up to 39th rank. And when we are talking about this progress in the innovation ecosystem, the major contributors have been not only the public and private sectors, the civil society, but the academia as a whole has also been able to place a very important role. So if we go around and see, India has been a contributor and a leading in number of sectors, whether we talk about IT sector or automobile industry or pharmaceutical industry or telecommunication sectors, even the new emerging areas of artificial intelligence or IoT or data analytics. All these areas we see that India has been a major, globally it has been a major player. And not only that, it has also been able to provide trained manpower in all these sectors across the globe. And since because I am coming from the pharmaceutical sciences background, I would just like to share with you like how the Indian pharmaceutical industry is fourth largest in the world in terms of volumes. And specifically, if we go by the um vaccine industry, we are the major manufacturers of vaccines which are exported globally, because we are able to meet up to 60% of the world's demand of the vaccines, and even the WHO procures 70% of the vaccines from the Indian manufacturers. And all this has been possible only because of the rigorous research activities that are being conducted not only in our government institutes, but also by the private vaccine manufacturers. Now, another question that I would like to raise for the participants here is, why do you think that as higher educational institutions, it is important for us to be engaged in research? Yes, please. I hope I'm audible.
For helping the government to frame the policies.
Yes, to help the government to frame the policies, right? Okay. Anyone else? I hope the participants.
To solve a societal problem in a structural manner.
Yes, yes, very true. Very true. So why research is important in for our higher educational institutions? If we see, the primary objective of any research is the exploration of the new knowledge or the creation of the new knowledge. And as faculty members, when we are engaged in research, we stay updated about the recent developments that they are taking place in our field of study, in our discipline. And all these cutting edge knowledge, all these recent advancements that the knowledge that we acquire, we are able to bring that to our classrooms. So once we are engaging in the research, our students are also benefited. And if you just see that the institutions where research is the major focus, these institutions are able to attract best of the students. They are also able to attract best of the faculty members within your institutions, and they are also able to retain those faculty in your institutions. Another major reason you can say is, it also, like I said, it also enhances the quality of education also. And any accreditation you see, whether it is we are going as institutions, we are going for NAC accreditation, or if we are participating in the NIRF ranking, does the research has any weightage in that for NAC accreditation or NIRF ranking? Yes, participants, please. I hope you all are with me. I'm not talking to a blank screen.
It has given sufficient weightage to research and publications, both in NIRF, in NAC, and also in National Board of accreditation programs.
PA also, right?
I may not tell you exactly the score out of 1,000 that they give, but it is more than 10% that they assign to research and development activities, which also includes publications, copyrights, patents, etc.
Yeah, right. Because if criteria 3, if you see in the NAC, the old system that we had, that is
It's
for
approximately
research and innovation. For colleges, it is around 15% weightages for the research for this criterion. And for the universities, it is as high as 25%. So here we are not only talking about publications and patents, it also includes the number of students that are enrolled in your institutions for PhD, the research funds that we are able to procure from the various funding agencies. So once we are engaged in research, and you take any institution, and the institutions which are having higher grades in the NAC accreditation, or which are ranking higher in the NIRF, you will see that all these institutions are emphasizing or giving due consideration to research and such related activities. Then one another very important thing is like, and if we go by and see the policy document, National Education Policy document, it has been very categorically saying that we have to make sure that the students are having critical thinking abilities. And once when we are engaging our students in even some smaller research projects, we can see that the students are able to develop critical thinking abilities, because during the research project they have to go through the literature, they have to identify the problem areas, and then come out with solutions for those problems. So all these activities helps or grooms them to be problem solvers. Then it also creates a very thriving academic community, because if our institutions are engaged in research, that means that the scholars from our institutions will be visiting other institutions, they will be interacting with scholars from other parts of the country. You Many scholars will be coming to your campuses. There will be very exchange of new knowledge and all this creates a very dynamic environment in your institutions. And it also leads to groundbreaking discoveries also, because as we were talking about innovation, once the students are engaged in research, it also gives them an opportunity to explore some innovative ideas. And every year we see when the Nobel Prizes are awarded, most of these you will see that the awardees, they are researchers or scientists who are working in some or the other universities across the globe. So as one of the participants very rightly pointed out in the beginning also, like it also gives us an opportunity to contribute to the society, to find answers for the solutions for the problems that may be prevailing in our surroundings. And last but not the least, it also stimulates the economic growth also, because if our faculty members are inclined towards research, they and research requires funds, and they will be looking or identifying various funding agencies, writing research proposals, submitting it to these agencies, and if the projects are granted, there will be some uh, additional funds that will be coming to your institutes. And also, once you are engaged in research, we will be looking for collaborations, we will be looking for partnerships with other scientists or other researchers who are working in other institutions or who may be having facilities that we may not be having in our institutions. So, research also attracts funding and partnerships. So, before I proceed further, I just wanted to share some data with you. Like this will give you an idea about how much as a country we are spending on R&D. If you just closely examine this data, and if you see this in bold, that is for India, you see that what we are spending on research, that may be very less, right? It is less in comparison to developed countries, say like US or UK or Israel or Germany. But it is also less than other smaller countries than us, like Mexico or Russia or Malaysia or South Africa. And even though during the last many years there has been a increase in the R&D expenditure, but this R&D expenditure has increased. But if we see what is the percentage of R&D as per the out of the GDP, we can see that this value has somehow or they remain constant around 0.68, around 0.65 to 68. And why this number is important is because this data which is published by World Bank, which is one of the for the world development indicators, and what we are spending on research as a percentage of GDP, it is only around 0.65%, which is much less than other developed countries. Even our biggest competitor in the global market, that is China, that is also spending almost 4 times in terms of percentage of GDP on the research. And if we just see what are the major sectors who are spending on research, we see that in most of the countries, R&D expenditure is mainly done through these 4 sectors. One is the government agencies, then the private business enterprises, then higher education, and the private non-profit organizations. And if again here we closely look at the Indian figures, we will see that the major contributor for research in our country has been the government agencies. Almost 56.1% of the expenditure that we are doing on research that comes from government funds, which is much higher than the other countries if you just go through the data for the other countries. Then the private business enterprises, they have a lesser contribution as compared to other countries. In India, we only 36.8% of the expenditure on research that is done through private business enterprises. And the higher education sector, that is also spending much lesser than what other countries are spending at 7.1 percentage. And the private non-profit organizations, they have almost negligible contributions. So this also shows us one opportunity also where we can look forward for additional funding for research. And if we are trying to reach out to the industries, for example, it is very important that the research areas that we are identifying or the areas in which we are conducting the research, that should be relevant for the industry. Because if in our higher education institutions, the purpose of research is only for publications, or if it will only end up in some thesis or dissertations, such research may not be funded by the industries. So if we have to procure more and more funds for our research from the industries, it is very important that we identify the areas of research, the outcomes of which will be of utility for the industries. One another small data that will also give you an idea about the share of the various sectors which are receiving the R&D. For instance, the R&D expenditure, as I said, mainly it is coming through the government funding agencies. And out of these government funding agencies also, if you see, almost 50% of the funds goes to the defense research and to the space research, and the other and 10% to the Department of Atomic Energy, right? So you can see that this distribution of funds is also somehow lopsided, but no doubt the increased funding may be justified now because we have been able to achieve several milestones in the areas of space and defense research. So now what is NEP saying about research? So NEP very categorically says that if we want to enhance the quality of education, we have to make sure that we are focusing on research and innovation. And we have to focus not only research and innovation, but we have to promote quality research within our higher educational institutions. Mere doing research will not be sufficient. We have to conduct quality research. Because why this is important is because unless and until we are able to integrate research, innovation, and technology development, we will not be able to achieve the status of self-reliant India, या जो हमारी परिकल्पना है आत्मनिर्भर भारत की, उसको हम शायद अचीव आसानी से नहीं कर सकेंगे. और इसी को ध्यान में रखते हुए you will see that it is now proposed that at our institutions we have to establish a R&D cell, and the main role of these R&D cell is to catalyze multidisciplinary and transdisciplinary and translational research culture, which has been mandated in the NEP 2020. And the purpose of this NRF, if you remember in the beginning of the slides, I had said how NEP has proposed the establishment of NRF. This NRF will be working towards seeding, funding, coordinating, and monitoring research and innovation initiatives. So, another thing that the NEP has been emphasizing is that we have to adopt a multidisciplinary approach in education. Why multidisciplinary approach in education is important? Because unless and until the student is exposed to diverse disciplines, we may not be able to nurture a curious and creative mind who is also having analytical and critical thinking abilities. And why these skills are important is because unless and until a student has all these skills, they now may not be able to frame the right research questions and bring about required and relevant outcomes and solutions. And it is with this objective the establishment of the R&D cells have been identified. And UGC has also come up with the guidelines for the establishment of the R&D cells. So you can find this document on the UGC website. It is a very small document, very tiny document, hardly 6 to 7 pages. And yes, at this point, I would like to know from the participants, do you have an R&D cell in your institutions? And if you are having it, what are the activities that you are conducting under it?
We have R&D set, madam. And I think our R&D coordinator is also here in this program. He might throw more light on the activities of R&D cell.
Good afternoon, madam.
Good afternoon, sir.
Ma'am, we do have the R&D cell in our institute, and we are promoting the research activities amongst the students and faculty members by conducting various programs through this cell. Also, this cell is aligned with the Institution Innovation Council (IIC), and through which we inculcate the innovation activities for the students and faculty.
Okay. Yeah, good to know that. Anyone else? So which institute is this, sir?
This is Sri Sant Gajanan Maharaj College of Engineering. Dr. Suresh Madam. And we have a well laid out R&D policy also.
Yes.
Which everybody, every faculty member knows. And under this policy, there are provisions for funding support to R&D activities carried out by different faculty members and staff members, and even student community. Whether it is about writing a paper, publishing a paper, participating in conference, going abroad, or you have a registration of design, registration of copyright, registration of patent, uh, uh, and all that.
Okay. Yeah, very, very nice. Happy to know that you have developed
Madam,
that.
we also promote the participation of students in the hackathons or project competitions, through which they get the essence of the research.
Okay. So do you have a Section 8 company in your institution?
No, ma'am.
No. Okay. Okay.
We have entrepreneurship cell.
Still, okay. 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 So happy to know that. So this guidelines that if for the other participants, if they are not aware about it, you can download this document and go through it. And this major objective, you can say, for the establishment of R&D cell is, one is to create a conducive environment, because if we see in our institutions, especially academic institutions, we are very confined to our own disciplines. We are not ready to collaborate even with the other departments of our institution or our colleges. So, unless and until we are collaborating with other disciplines, we may not be able to design a multidisciplinary or a transdisciplinary research projects. So, the purpose of one of the objective is to enhance research productivity and encourage multidisciplinary or transdisciplinary research. And also, we have to promote collaboration across academia. We also have to collaborate with the industry, whatever relevant industry which may be there for your institutions, and also with the communities around us. Then another is like for the facilitation of to facilitate access to resources. So as our participants have pointed out that they have a research policy in place. So it is very important that every institution should have a research policy. They should have an IPR policy, and because if you want to procure funds from the various funding agencies, we have to submit the proposals. So we have to assist the faculty members in during the proposal writing, and if the projects is a collaborative project with other institutions, there has to be clear cut uh, uh, details about what will be the resource sharing, and if some IPRs are generated out of it, what will be the sharing about it and how are you going to manage it. So all these things should be very clearly laid down in the policy. Then to strengthen the research capacities, we may have to conduct time to time training programs, some workshops, and mentorship opportunities has to be provided for the faculties and the students. And for all these research, it is very important that we are promoting ethical research, that we are adhering to the highest standards of research integrity, that we have to make sure that whatever studies that we are conducting, that if they are reported, that there should be no issues of plagiarism are arising, there are no cases of data manipulation, and whatever protocols that we are following, that should be approved by the proper statutory bodies. For example, if you are conducting your research on some animal some human subjects, the study protocol should be approved by the institutional human ethical committee. If you are conducting, for example, in life sciences, or even in pharmacy, we are conducting experiments on animals, so the protocol should be approved by the institutional animal ethical committee. And if you are handling some biological samples, you should have biosafety standards in place. So this is the purpose with which all the institutions are encouraged to establish R&D cells, and it is up to the institutions to identify what will be their thrust areas, what are their needs, so the institutions can decide it on the basis of their needs and the context under they are working. So it is very important that the R&D cells should have a well-defined structure and they should have representatives from different disciplines. It should not be like only one or two departments are represented in the R&D cells. They should have representatives from different disciplines and also different stakeholders. For example, not only faculty members, but also scholars, research scholars, students, members from the industry, members from the community, members from the alumni, all should be part of the R&D cell. So this is the organizational structure that has been proposed. And for instance, there will be a research advisory council which will be chaired by the vice chancellor or the principal, and or they can also assign a nominee as a chairperson, and then there will be a director of the R&D cell who will act as the convener, and further some committees can be constituted for decentralizing the various activities. For example, one committee can look after the finance and infrastructure. One policy can look after the research programs that are conducted, framing of the policies. Then one committee can look after the various MOUs that your institution may be signing with the purpose of research and related activities, or collaborating with the community members. Then one committee can look after the product development if there is some research which can generate or some technologies for product development, and for the monitoring, regular monitoring also. And if there is some possibilities for exploring the commercialization aspects of your research, then another committee can look after the all the IPR issues and the other legal and ethical matters. So this is the proposed organizational structure for the R&D cell. So these are the major functions of the R&D cells that are to be carried out. And in last year itself, this Anusandhan National Research Foundation, this has been set up, which is serving as an apex body to provide national level, you can say, leading the research in the country as per the recommendations of the NEP. So currently the fields that have been identified, these include the natural sciences, including mathematical sciences, engineering, technology, environmental and earth sciences, and health and agriculture. So, but that doesn't mean that there can be no involvement of the researchers from the humanities or the social sciences, because ultimately, if these scientific and technological uh, advances, we want them to reach to the society, and if the research work involves at the interface of these sectors, we can also include co-PIs and PIs from the humanities and the social sciences as well. Now, the next question that arises is, how can we reform the research in our institutions? So the first and foremost thing is, we have to partner and we have to collaborate. We have to partner with other academic institutions, with industry, with community, or the other R&D labs. Second is the encouragement of the student research programs. As we know now that even in the like professional courses were also earlier 4-year courses, whether it is BTech or BPharm, but now even the conventional or traditional courses, let's say like BA, BSc or BCom, they are also now being converted into the 4-year undergraduate programs. And the students in the 4th year, they will now have the option in the 4th year, if they are scoring above 75% during the first 3 years, they can earn their credits in the 4th year by working on some research projects. So if it is up to the student now, if he is scoring above 75%, if they want, they can work on some research projects, and at the end of it, they will be getting a degree by research. Or otherwise, if they are selecting some other courses, they will be getting the honors degree. So now more and more students, even the undergraduate students, may be involved in research programs or research projects. And such students who are completing their undergraduate programs by research, they can directly enroll for PhD programs as well. Another opportunity that we can offer to the students is that we can offer them research or teaching assistantships to the graduate and undergraduate students. So in this way, the students will not only be economically supported because they will be paid for these activities, but they will also be getting or gaining hands-on experience while working on some research projects under the guidance of the faculty members. And another important need that we have to make sure is that our students are having access to databases and our libraries are updated, because unless and until the students are having access to latest information and resources, they will not be able to conduct meaningful or relevant or cutting edge research, right? And it is with this, because as researchers, you all might have observed and also faced the situation where we want a full text paper, full text of one of the articles, but since that article is being published in a journal which has very high subscription fees, which our institutions are not able to get, sometimes being located in such institutes may be a disadvantage, right? But now the government has introduced this scheme of One Nation, One Subscription portal, which will be providing access to scholarly research journals. And for this, the government has allocated a budget of 3,000 crores over the next 3 years, starting from 2025. So under the scheme, now we will be having full digital access through this portal. And with this scheme, over 1.8 crore students, faculty members, and researchers will be benefited in around 6,300 institutions. And currently, this is being managed through the InflibNet. So, this is a very major step, because now the procuring or getting the full text paper for over I think 30 publishers have been identified, and all the journals are now available, will now be available through this portal. So just I wanted to share with you like our experience at Pandit Ravi Shankar Shukla University. We are a state university. Normally, we do not get separate funds for research, but during the years, our faculty members have been writing very good research proposals, and we have been getting funding from various agencies under different sponsoring schemes also. Last year, we got around 10 crore grant for the DST purse. We all had also had UGC, DRS SAP departments, DST Fizz departments. This year we have also got a grant for over 20 crores under the PM Usha. And from all these funds, which were basically targeted towards research activities, you can say, we have been able to procure a number of high-end instruments, and which certainly helps in conducting the research work of the students. So we have to accept that there is a connectivity between teaching and research, because the concept of modern universities was on the principles that these will be those centers where there will be a connection between teaching and research. But when I say this, there may be many critics among us who may not agree with me. For the teachers who are more interested in research, sometimes the teaching assignments appears like a load, appears like a burden. But on the other side of the spectrum, the faculty members who want to escape from research, we always have the excuse that because I am having so much of teaching load, so many classes are being assigned to me, I am not able to devote much time for the research. But this is entirely different from the requirements of the higher education institutions. Because if you see, all the faculty members, we are all PhDs, whether we are working in universities or colleges. And even the young faculty members who may be joining without PhD, they will be looking for the first opportunity to enroll for the PhD program, which is a research program. And there is some objective attached to it, and because unless once we are engaging in research, it is rightly understood also the skills that we are acquiring during the research, by doing research, it helps us to improve the teaching also. So we have to learn how we can integrate teaching and research in our classrooms, because both teaching and research, these are based on pursuit of knowledge, curiosity, and rationality. And if we are integrating teaching and research, it benefits both the students and the teachers. How does it benefit the student? Because if we are engaging the student in some research projects, the student becomes more interested. But as compared to when you are just taking some theoretical classes to the students. And as the student is working on some small research project also, they start learning about the various research methodologies. They start understanding what is the backstage of knowledge production, or how does the knowledge production actually takes place. And when there is research based learning, the student are also able to connect whatever course material that they are studying, how is it relevant in the daily lives, or what contribution it can make for the betterment of the society. Similarly, it also improves the teacher's research also if we are integrating teaching and research. Because as teachers, you all might have observed that there were many topics that were not very clear to us while we were studying as the students, right? But once we are teaching those very subjects to the students year after year, teaching those topics, now our own research thoughts are getting more clarity, because now as we are explaining them to the students, we are better able to understand those concepts or those topics. Similarly, while helping the students for designing their research project, we also have to go through the recent literature, and we in this process are able to see the bigger picture of our field. And as the students come to us with their queries, while we are looking for answers for their problems, we also get newer directions for our research. So, how can we connect teaching and research? There are some small ways that we can adopt during our routine classes. Yeah, whether our class is for of 1 hour or 45 minutes, at least 3 to 4 minutes we can take out and introduce the students to the research topics in the theme that we may be discussing in our classrooms. We can discuss with them what are the present findings, what are the direct implications, and what are the challenges that the that particular area is posing for us. Similarly, as faculty members who are engaged in research, we may be invited to certain academic forums, even some online forums like your webinars. There are so many social media platforms are also available where we can post our videos or podcast to showcase the research that we might be conducting. And also we can plan out certain seminars for the students, like beforehand we are giving some topics to the students where the students come prepared and they give their presentations. There is an healthy discussion among the students. So this encourages critical engagement of the individuals. And during our routine tutorial classes where we are handling with a smaller group of students or even with individual students, so we can guide them on their dissertations or on their assignments or projects, and we can mentor the students as per that research interest, because sometimes in a class only a handful of the students might be interested. So we can use the tutorials sessions that we are having to engage or to answer the queries or mentor such students for their research projects. Similarly, we can also plan out some workshops for the students. Sometimes in our institutions, we may be having certain equipments or certain softwares also, which are not routinely covered during the classes, or those topics may not be included in their course now. But since we are having those facilities with us, we can plan out a workshop for the students where we can demonstrate those research equipments and those techniques and provide hands-on training for the students. And we have access to so many online platforms. So through these online platforms we can share the uh, research materials, research outputs, or we can communicate and interact with these students on their research topics. So it is very important that whatever research area that we are identifying for our lab, for our institute, for our colleges, that should be in alignment with the local, national, and global priorities. Why is it important? Is because if our research areas are aligned with these global priorities, we will be having more opportunities and there will be greater potential for interdisciplinary and genuine partnerships with others. And also, we can meaningfully contribute to the society to solve the problems that are relevant in the society. So that is, I know I'm running out of time. So that is why now we have to move from disciplinary research towards multidisciplinary research, and much better, that is participatory research, where not only academic partners are involved, but also there is partnership with the community or the people with the conventional or the traditional knowledge. And when we are talking about interdisciplinary research, you can say where the activities they are crossing the disciplinary boundaries, and whatever knowledge that is being developed, that is integrated with the knowledge of different disciplines. And the best way around is transdisciplinary research, where the whatever research activities that we are conducting that crosses the disciplinary and the sectorial boundaries, and whatever knowledge that we are developing that benefits both the science and the society. So we are taking from each other, but also we are contributing to the interdisciplines. So just I wanted to share this experience where at Pandit Ravi Shankar Shukla University, we have got over 3 crore grant from the IIT Bhilai Innovation Technology Foundation. And under this, we have got 4 different projects under the National Mission of Interdisciplinary Cyber Physical Systems and of the DST. And the project with which I am associated with, that is the development of cost analysis based tool for enhancing the accessibility of medicines in tribal population of Chhattisgarh. And this is truly a interdisciplinary research team that we are having, because since we are working on cost analysis based tool, we are having a co-PI from the economics department, because we are exploring the accessibility of medicines. We are having co-PIs and PIs from the pharmaceutical sciences department, because we are dealing with the tribal population of Chhattisgarh. We are having a co-PI from social sciences background. And because at the data that we are collecting, we are looking forward to develop a mobile app. We are also having 2 co-PIs from the computer science department. So before I end, I will just share this small video with you.
Your video is mute, madam.
Okay, the voice is not coming.
No.
No, ma'am.
It is not coming.
Okay, I think there is some issue with it. Because at my end, I am able to hear to it. There may be some issue with the sharing. So in a gist, you can say that why interdisciplinary research is important is because whatever problems that we look around that we are having, whether it is climate change or it is healthcare issues or poverty or cyber security or any such thing, we see the major problems that we are facing. All these problems are complex and they are multidimensional, and no single discipline can fully understand these problems and come out with the solutions alone. So we need to collaborate with different disciplines if we want to solve these pressing issues. Another why it is important that we go for interdisciplinary or multidisciplinary research, because when researchers from different disciplines are coming together, you can say we come out with newer and better ideas which might not have been possible if we were working in isolation. And also, the quality of our research is also improved, because when different researchers from different disciplines are coming, they bring with them different methodologies, different data sources, different analytical tools, and all this improves the quality of the research. And it also helps in finding solutions for the real world problems. And also it broadens the perspective also, because when we are working with individuals from different disciplines, we somehow come out of our comfort zones and try to understand a problem or a issue from the perspective or the other individual or other discipline as well. And last but not the least is it also increases the funding opportunities also, because if you look around, most of the government agencies or private foundations, they are supporting the research which is targeted towards finding solutions for the complex problems that are prevailing in the society. So, if we come together as a multidisciplinary team or a transdisciplinary team, the chances of writing a good research proposal and the chances for getting funding for such projects is also increased. So, with this, I would like to end the session and thank you very much for the patient listening. And if you have any questions or queries or any observations, please feel free to share that.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Participants, the forum is open for question, answer, and discussion. If you have any queries, questions, or observation, you can note down here. Please, anyone.
Dr. Atik, may I?
Yeah, sir. Please, please. Sir.
Dr. Preeti, madam, I can only say that this session had been in true sense a session to sensitize us towards the R&D policy and provisions incorporated in the National Education Policy 2020. You have brought before us from the document itself directly, and also based on your personal experiences, the different aspects of R&D, and I at least have been making introspections all through your presentations, and it has truly sensitized all of us, I would say, towards the R&D activity, which as a higher education institution, we must focus on, as you said, and as the NEP also provides for. So that was my observation. Just to share, I have been associated with your MMC, now called MMC, for last 20 years at Raipur since the days of Professor Agrawal.
Okay.
Being a man of management, I am associated with Dr. Ashish Srivastav of the management department. I'm sure you might be knowing him. So that gave me another interest to listen to you. So thank you very much for a very, very wonderful presentation. Thank you, madam.
Thank you for the kind words. Yeah, you're most invited. You can always visit our university in person. Yeah, looking forward to meet you sometime.
Thank you.
Dr. Atik, may I?
Yeah, sir, please.
Ma'am, I seek information about UGC Care List Journal for Management and other also ABDC.
But now the journal, that UGC Care List, is now being dissolved. I think you might be aware about it. And it will be now up to the institutions to identify the journals which maybe. So I think UGC Care List is now being dissolved. Yeah. Which institute are you from, sir?
Ma'am,
SGMC.
SSGM, Sir Gajanan Maharaj College of Engineering, Shegaon. All the participants are from there. Okay. And the UGC has placed a public notice regarding the dissolvement of this UGC Care List. And there were some suggestions that has been called from the institutions. I think that public notice and the suggestions has been available on the UGC website. Within a couple of time, I will share in our group. And UGC will focus on the more impactful journal, that is a peer-reviewed journal. There are some kind of suggestions in that particular document. So I will share in a couple of time in our group. You can see that. Is anyone there? Another question?
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Is anyone? If there are no more questions, then we can continue.
Yes, sir.
Ma'am, shall we conclude, ma'am? If you could.
Sure, sir. Yes, sir. Sure, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the patient listening and giving me this opportunity to share some of my understanding, because I know many of the participants will be very more senior than me. They have more experiences at their institutions, but I'm always thankful that I was given this chance to share my understanding here. So thank you very much, sir. I can log out now.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. On behalf of Malviya Mission Teacher Training Center, Sant Garge Baba Amravati University, and Sant Gajanan Maharaj College of Engineering, Shegao, I extend my sincere gratitude towards Professor Suresh, ma'am, for being with us, enlighten us, and gives us the clear roadmap and the documentation with regards to this research and development policy, and share her experiences in the domain of her research. So, ma'am, definitely it will be beneficial for us, and we will inculcate these practices in our institution, in our regional institution, and in our university. So, we are really thankful to you for your precious time. I'm also thankful to all the participants for their interaction and the patience listening. And with the kind consent of Professor Preeti, ma'am, I would like to declare that this session will be over. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. And
Thank you very much. Thank you.